Hey, Liam from Cancer-Bats.
What's up?
How's things, man?
Good. Yeah, stoked.
How's the UK?
Life's going good.
How's the UK treating you so far?
Awesome. We've been here for about a week. We've watched some amazing gigs while we just waited for this show to come around. Did a bunch of press, hung out. Our record came out on Monday. It was awesome. It blew all of our minds. How many people give a shit about our band?
How do you feel about the reception you got from both fans and press alike?
Awesome. I mean, like, we were, you know, as always, you're kind of like worried about what people are going to think about, you know, the new record and stuff like that. So to know that, yeah, not only like press is giving it, you know, some awesome support, like kids seem to be loving it. Like we played last night at the Old Blue Last and busted out a bunch of new songs. The kids already know the words and people are stoked. So
how was the show last night? Because it's quite an intimate venue.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, it was so hot, so sweaty. It's like, it's almost good with something like that though to like start off, you know, like your tour through like disgusting brutality, where you're like, okay, well, I know tonight is not going to be nearly as hellish as that. You know, it's super fun, but it's like, oh, you just want to barf the whole time.
So with last night, what made you decide to play the smaller show?
They just asked us. We're up for whatever, as long as people ask.
You're up for
That's pretty
much
it. You guys want to play a really cool show? Yes. Okay, we'll see you on Thursday.
Cool. So when playing a show, what do you hope like the kids or the crowd take away experience-wise from your
I mean, I just hope everybody has a good time. Like whether they're in the pit, like sweating it up and having fun, or even in the back, just like feeling the noise. I just hope people come out and have a good time, get stoked. I mean, that's why I go to shows, you know, so I'd hope for the same thing.
So with current release, just came out. When it came to recording it and writing, is there anything you went in with specific mindset, saying, right, we're going to do this differently, learnings from your previous efforts?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we did even when we started writing was just like talking about what we loved about our band and like what was, you know, our like what we found really fun and what was the best stuff to play live, and you know what was just like the reasons why we love being in this band, you know, what gets us stoked. So it was kind of fun that way to like really just be looking back on like what we've done and to be like, yeah, I love when we have like stoner songs like this, and I love that we like have thrash songs at the same time, and you know, I like doing stuff like, you know, more mid-tempo songs like Lucifers and things like that. So we just tried to like, you know, keep it going with what we were doing and what got us stoked, and seems to be what like gets kids stoked too, so we kind of stuck to that formula. So
talking about what you love about the band, what do you love personally about being in this band?
I just love the fact that like kids are up for, you know, the ADD kind of like hardcore sludge punk metal that we seem to do, because I don't know, like when we first started the band we had no idea that kids would be as receptive to it, because again it was just Scott and I like wishing there was more bands that played stuff that we weren't hearing, so we just decided to start a band that would do it. And then it was cool to see that other kids felt that same way and were into what we were doing. So yeah, it always blows our minds that people like our band.
Cool. Just talking about when you first started the band, obviously you've been through a lot and there's changes. If you can look back at that person you were then, what would be the advice you'd give yourself, maybe the biggest lesson you've learned along the road?
To maybe not be in as much of a rush. I'm always like, I'm still in such a rush though. Like I always want to do everything. I always want to like stuff to be done now. You know what I mean? I'm the worst at like waiting.
Impatience.
Like for us, like talking to like, you know, managers and record labels now, it's like they're like, oh, we want you guys to maybe take some time off before this record comes out, and we're like, no, we don't take time off. Like when we're not writing a record, we're touring. So instead of like taking off time between the like being finished recording and it coming out, we toured for like the entire 5 months and just like got to go everywhere, and it was like kids were still stoked. It wasn't like they were bored of Hail Destroyer or even Birthing the Giant, you know? So it's like as long as there's kids out there that want to hear stuff, like we want to keep touring.
So talking about being impatient, do you feel maybe the attention and the sort of success you got now has been a long time coming?
No, because I don't feel like there's anything that we're due, you know what I mean? It's like the fact that kids are into what we're doing is awesome for us, but it's not like I'm like, oh, you know, we've been a band for 4 years, like our band should be bigger, because I feel like when you set those expectations for yourself, that's when you're gonna get let down. You know, but when you have no expectations for your band, like the fact that, you know, we never thought we'd be playing to like 700 kids at a sold out show in London, it's just like that blows our minds. But there's bands that could be like, oh, I wish this was 1,000. I wish this was, you know, wherever, and it's like, oh, I don't even
Wembley
care.
Arena.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, if you get caught up in that, it's just like, you're just going to go through a lifetime of like heartache, you know, because nothing's going to live up to your own expectations. But if you have zero expectations,
you always win.
You're always stoked.
So, talking about playing bigger venues, do you prefer the smaller shows where you can see people's faces and get in there with them?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like both. I mean, I realize that there's some people that don't want to spend the whole night in like a sweaty basement in the pit, like getting their face smashed. I mean, I love shows like that, but I want it to be like inclusive to everybody. I mean, there's like stories about like Fugazi back in the day who would always make a point of playing the biggest venue possible just so that no one would get turned away. And they're like, I'd rather play a massive venue half full knowing that everyone can come and have fun rather than, you know, something exclusive that's just like cool and cliquey, you know. So I definitely like appreciate that too, where, you know, I want, you know, everybody to be able to come and everybody be able to have fun, because you don't invite your mom, you know, to the basement show. So I like being able to play both though, for sure.
So if you had a choice maybe to play Kentish Town Forum or the Garage for 3 nights in a row?
Oh, I'd definitely rather do 3 nights in a row. I would way rather do something like that, because to me this is like the like perfect mix of both worlds. You know, it's like a big enough venue that you can get tons of people to come out, but at the same time it's gonna be like it's gonna have the vibe of a punk show. You know, even though it is fairly big.
So looking at say maybe the punk shows that you used to go to before you got in the band, was there any particular band or show you went to that almost made you think, I want to be in a band, this is what I want to do? Yeah,
I mean, for us, like for Jay and I especially, like growing up and going to see bands like Countdown to Oblivion and The Swarm were like early hardcore, like Canadian hardcore bands that were just like, it was like nothing we had ever seen before. And Chris Callahan, who went on to start Cursed, like was such a huge influence on us, where it was just like, this was the most brutally like heavy thing we had ever heard in our lives, but at the same time was like the craziest show, like the most energetic. And then the show would finish and you would get to like, everyone would just hang out. It was like they'd put down their instruments and it was just like hanging out. And for us, that was just like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. And I still try and do that as much as we can, where it's like the show's done and you just hang out in the crowd. Because it's like, yeah, that's what it's all about. It's all about that community, and, you know, in the sense that everyone's there together. I mean, it sucks that there's going to be a barricade tonight to kind of like make sure that everything stays safe, which I can appreciate. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but it's like, I'm definitely going to try and, you know, go past that barricade. So as often as I can.
Talking about, you know, the community, obviously the hardcore scene in Canada was really strong. Do you feel now it's coming over to these shores with the likes of Gallows Goes to 1,000? It's sort of growing a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's that Canadian attention, you know, that where there's like people that realize that just like in, you know, like there's a good hardcore scene, as you said, like Gallows and Ghost and bands like Throats and, you know, Rollo Tomasi and stuff like that. The kids are finding out about it. It's like they can see, that there's a hardcore scene like in Canada that's just as good, and finding out about all those bands, which is wicked, because it's very easy for everyone to just look to America for like new stuff and just to be, you know, perfectly satisfied with, like, there's tons of bands that come from the US that are awesome, and you've in a lot of ways don't need to look anywhere else. So I love the fact that we come to places like England and Australia and, you know, Europe, where they go, oh, the US isn't the be all and end all, you know, that there are other bands that we can check out, and that there is a Canadian style that we like. So yeah, it's cool.
So looking at the various countries and the way crowds go off, what crowd do you think go off sort of the hardest and get into it?
I don't know. I feel like kids are kids almost. Like, you know, we'll play like shows in Germany or shows in Belgium and shows in Switzerland, and then play Canada and England and Australia, and it's like everywhere you go, like Japan, kids are insane. I feel like just like young kids are up for getting crazy wherever you go. It's just what being a kid is about.
So could you narrow one show that's sort of like the highlight for you, the best show where you've left it with the biggest smile on your face that you couldn't get rid of for days?
I don't even know. I feel like every show is like that, where like the fact that people show up and sing along and know the words and go off, you're just like, whoa, this is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you describing that was like me leaving the Peel or the Old Blue last night, just being like, that was fucking crazy. You know, when you go up again with like no expectations, like we said we were gonna play that show 2 days before, and the bar is like completely rammed. There's kids outside trying to get in, and you're just like, this is awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome. And final question. Companies have mission statements. If you were to give your band a mission statement of what you sort of stand for and what you want to achieve, what could you? Sum up as almost.
Good times, sweet riffs, heavy tone, bong rattling bass lines, headbanging.
And leave sweaty.
And leave sweaty. Sweaty and smiling.
Awesome. Ian Arnold, BringTheNoiseUK.com.